The death toll among children in the Gaza Strip has surpassed 12,000 since the war began in October, according to the territory's Ministry of Health. Here in New Brunswick, an Indigenous community near Miramichi recently hosted a ceremony and flag raising for the children of Gaza. The event took place on February 10th at a school in Natoaganeg First Nation, also known as Eel Ground First Nation. Laila, Abuamer, and Maryam Mohammad have family members in Gaza. They traveled from Fredericton for the event.
It's very healing and very touching. There's a lot of shared pain between us and Eel Ground First Nations. At such hard times, this is what we really need, a community and activities that really touch the pain. It's a very deep wound that has been there for 75 years now. And sometimes it goes numb. Today was very healing. It was like, it was very touching.
And just expanding off of that, like Palestinians and Indigenous people have so much in common, and we've learned that so much over the past 4 months. I've known it my whole life, for as long as I've known about Indigenous issues, so being able to come together and share our pain together and heal as a community and be able to just share this flag raising just means a lot. I personally have direct family in Gaza, so my grandmother and my 4 aunts are in Gaza with their kids and their spouses. Yeah. So I've been following along very closely, mostly in shock. They've lost their homes. Sometimes it's hard to keep touch with them. My cousin he was 19 and he was shot while he was in line for bread, so that was hard on the family as well. So we're thankful that they're at least safe, most of them right now, but we're worried for them at the moment.
I do have extended family in Gaza, and I do also have extended family in the West Bank. They're all displaced, and they're all in Rafah right now, and the situation there is crazy. It's horrible, and just knowing that right now they're all in tents and there is constant bombing raining on them, it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
Chief George Ganesh and other speakers at the event drew parallels between Canada and Israel, including the displacement of Indigenous people from their land and the suffering of children. In December, Ganesh seconded a resolution at the Assembly of First Nations calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
We've both had to endure that colonial, intent to displace us from our lands, and to for all intents and purposes, just not really care what happens to the original people. So that's, it just boggles the mind, and that it's taken this long for us to begin, and at the same time, you've got an Indigenous people that are in modern day in front of media that are being killed.
The event was emceed by Zaid Kaji, a physician in nearby Miramichi. He described the event as a spiritual gathering, not a political one. At one point during the event, he read out the names of some of the Indigenous children in Canada who either died in residential school or who are among the many missing or murdered Indigenous girls. Then he read out the names of some of the children killed in Gaza.
Ali Al-Suri, 2 months old, Gaza. Daniel Mansour, 1 year old, Gaza. Fatima Asfour, 2 years old, Gaza. Malik Al-Zanati, 3 years old, Gaza. Lena Kader, 4 years old, Gaza. Elias Daher, 5 years old, Gaza.
Those names represent just a small fraction of the death toll in this war, and even that number, more than 12,000 children, doesn't include those who are missing, buried under the rubble. Canada is known as a firm supporter of Israel, although Prime Minister Justin Trudeau recently warned the Israeli government against a planned invasion of Rafah, the southern Gaza city where more than 1 million people have taken shelter. As for Laila and Maryam, as they worry about loved ones in Gaza, they called on the Canadian government to support a permanent ceasefire.
As simple as, they're human too. Just a call for a ceasefire, an end to the violence, an end to the siege and blockade, to learn from Canada's past and really put the meaning of never again forward.
I actually want to thank First Nations, Eel Ground First Nations, for raising the flag today for us. At a time where we don't have the right to go back to our homeland, I don't have the right to go back to my hometown, and where raising the flag is forbidden in our cities. Thank you so much for raising it here, and I hope to see that elsewhere also happening. But thank you so much.
The NB Media Co-op recorded video of the full event. Stay tuned for that uncut footage.
Just to give you an idea of how it's going to go, this is not a lecture-intensive event. We're not here to lecture anybody or guilt anybody. In fact, we're here to do the exact opposite of that. We hope to inspire, share, and leave here full of more hope and love and resistance than when we came. And we can only do that by facing each other and sharing rather than alone at home on our phones. Sounds familiar, right? So that's not been part of my speech. We got these guys, they were just finishing their prayers. So now that they're here, our event will be even more blessed. We have a group, those 4 guys, they just walked in from Truro. So thanks for coming from Truro. Okay. All right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of the Creator, the most gracious, the most merciful, we thank the Creator for allowing us to meet together here on an Indigenous land. It's about time, and I welcome you all to Eel Ground First Nation. It feels almost surreal to be saying that and to be hosting an event like this on Mi'kmaq territory, and particularly in Eel Ground, which is close to where many of us live here in Miramichi. There are quite a few young people in attendance and children, and so the language will, when we speak, will slightly reflect that, maybe in tone and in the words we use, as we hope that they can also gain something from this. When they leave here, they have some memory and would have taken something home from this school and from this occasion. And also, I think it's important to remember there are a good few people here who this is the first time they've been to a First Nation community, which is a remarkable thing. And these opportunities don't come that often, and certainly not in these circumstances. So I'm no politician, far from it. And if I was, I'd probably tell you something like, oh my goodness, look what a great turnout. It's cold, and wow, amazing how well we've done and how many people showed up in solidarity. But rather, I'm not a politician, so I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'll tell you something a bit more real. And that is, do not underestimate our children. Do not underestimate our youth. Do not underestimate our families. Do not underestimate the strength of our communities and traditions, and do not underestimate each other. That's first. I was a bit nervous, as you would be in an event like this, what if nobody shows up, and what if the turnout, I mean, normal kind of human anxiety, but you know what? If there was 2 of us here today, we'd continue, because we have a responsibility in the future when our children look at us and say, what did you do when 14,000 children in Gaza died in 3 months? Did you say anything? Did you do anything? And if there were 2 of us, I would have continued. So that anxiety is gone, and I'm just delighted to see all of you here, and particularly on Indigenous Mi'kmaq territory. So I'm not surprised. I'm actually surprised there isn't more people here. And that's the standard we're going to set for ourselves and our children, our communities going forward. That we can come together on our terms, guided by our traditions, our love on Indigenous land to share this moment is simply extraordinary. And though we're not politicians, this by nature is a very political moment. I will remind us all, too, that there are hundreds, if not thousands of people who sent well wishes and wish they could attend here today from across the country. This is the first community in this country where the Palestinian flag will be raised on a permanent basis in solidarity with the children of Gaza. I'm also no public speaker, and like some and maybe many of you, you get nervous speaking in front of crowds, but I am understanding as time goes, there's a time to remain silent, and there's a time to speak. That's right. There's a time to sit back, and we've all done that, and I've done that for most of my life, but there's also a time to stand up. So while I'm nervous, perhaps to stand in front of you on a different other occasion, speaking about perhaps other things, I am not at all nervous to stand in front of you today when it comes to the dignity, hope, respect, and future of our children on this land, in Gaza, and everywhere else that colonialism has aggressed us. And I am especially not nervous, certainly as a father of a daughter, not nervous to speak when it comes to the particular aggression directed towards Indigenous women, girls, Palestinian women and girls, and Indigenous people across this planet. So that fear is gone, because I would like to remind our young men, my sons in the audience, that they may remember these words. There's a time to remain silent, and there's a time to stand up. And when they come for our sisters, and our mothers, and our daughters, and our grandparents, that's where we draw the line, and we're going to find our courage and bravery, not alone, but together. Right? So it's not a political rally, and we're not the political class. This is a spiritual rally, and we're the spiritual class. And that sets us aside. And you know what that means? Is that we're about to discover our strength when we put our phones down for a moment, and we face each other, and we look at each other, and we're willing to share our pain. So while this is by no means a celebration, I'm not happy to be here. There's circumstances. I celebrate the children and families with us here today. Absolutely. You know what? Many of us, and we came from very different places, many of us, we're not even supposed to be here. So we celebrate those who are with us today. And that act itself is an act of resilience. And here's the difference between the political and the spiritual class. The difference is that we value one another based on the dignity the Creator has given each and every soul. And we value our children not on the accolades or the diplomas on the wall or the money in their bank account, but we value them based on the dignity that the Creator has given them, and not on the capital that they can produce for a system that treats us, especially Indigenous communities and the children, as disposable. So when the political system, I'm not going to call out names, that's not the point, summarily ignores us from top to bottom, ignores us over the deaths and murder of tens of thousands of our children here in Gaza and in other places. Right, there's a time to be silent, and there's a time to speak. So now things change. And you know what? I'm learning, and maybe we'll all learn, and we'll see where it takes us in the future, is that we don't go looking for them anymore. And I'm talking about the politicians who ignore us. We don't go knocking at their doors anymore, and we don't go begging them to recognize my humanity and your humanity. From today on, I think what we're learning, and particularly salient and Mi'kmaq territory, we go looking for each other. Yeah. We turn back to our faith, our teachings, our traditions, and I promise you, if we do so, just watch where the children here today lead us. Just watch. I'm not exaggerating. What this can turn into with a little bit of good intention and hope and the right spirit. When I see the children here today, even the ones running around, I'm so delighted. But I know they'll absorb something, and they can take us somewhere. So, we're going to get to our first speakers and singers in a minute. But I'm going to take the liberty to do one more thing. And like I say, I'm not a public speaker, and I would never speak like this about any other issue because I can't, and I don't have that conviction. But given this opportunity, I think it would be irresponsible of me not to. So, I'm not from Eel Ground. I was not born here. I do not live here. But please allow me, and if you don't allow me, I am taking the liberty to say, welcome home. I know from the audience, by looking into the audience, I know many or some of the people here, there are Indigenous people in attendance today from various communities in North America, from Indigenous nations in Central America, South America, Africa, and Asia. We've all had various journeys and struggles, and we all ended up in and around this area and in Canada for very, very different reasons. But for those of you who have left your native lands due to conflict or war, welcome home. Those who've lost children, and there are some in the audience who I know for sure, parents, and there are some in the audience I know for sure, family members, and felt that pain, welcome home. And those who've been dispossessed, and those who have felt the pain of being no one, and feeling powerless, now it starts to change. So, welcome home. And you know why? Because this soil on Mi'kmaq territory in Eel Ground, this soil understands. These trees will teach you patience. That water, it will comfort you. And this air that you breathe outside is going to inspire you. I'm not even sure I can make it through this as a father. Serious. But I'm going to try. Because we need to hear some of these words, and we've all been too scared to share it for a very, very long time. But the fear is going, and I know from the faces and some of the folks I know, you see the fear going. And I'm so happy that for the first time that some of us have lived in this country for 20, 30 years, immigrants, children of immigrants, and the grandchildren of immigrants, that this is the first time we come to a First Nation community. And they've destroyed 400 schools in Gaza since October. And we meet in an Indigenous school where the revitalization of the Mi'kmaq language, tradition, and resistance to the colonial war machine is occurring. So for those of you coming here with a lot of pain, and I'm one of them, Eel Ground faced what many of you have faced. Red Bank faced what many of you have faced. Burn Church faced what many of you have faced. And you know why we didn't know this? Because the colonial media had never told us. That's right. And do you know why so many Canadians and First Nations communities don't know the extent of the aggression against the Indigenous Palestinian people over the decades, and particularly since October? Because the colonial media never told us. They hide us from each other. They get us stuck behind our phones, suspicious of each other, calling us savages, barbarians, terrorists, and denigrating our children. Well, now, those days are over, because we're going to start facing each other on a regular basis. I'm just about there, but I will say, for the spiritual class, and I'm one of them, because my spirit leads me based on the dignity given to me by my Creator, and not the diploma on my wall, and not the accolades given me by a university, and not by what's in my bank account. For the spiritual class, we understand the tens of thousands of little souls who never returned home from right here in this country. They're not gone. The 14,000 little souls taken from us, and I say taken from us, you know, there are children here, but our children can understand the truth. Murdered in Gaza. Our faith teaches us they're not gone. Do not say they are gone. No, they are alive. Their spirits are here with us. And it is because of them precisely that perhaps we're finally waking up and finding our way to each other. And honestly, it's about time. So while many of us are coming here carrying that huge burden of sorrow, pain, and hopelessness of the events of Gaza over the past 4 months, some perspective, it may very well be in the end that we will not be saving the children of Gaza at all. I wonder if in the end it is the children of Gaza who are going to save us. That they've given their lives so that we may finally wake up from our slumber and put down our endless entertainment and learn about our communities 3 kilometers down our road and people have never been here. It asks serious questions of our faith, of where we see ourselves in this country as Canadians and our identity, that we could ignore atrocities down the road and they could ignore ones and lands where we come from, and we were okay with this for so long. Oh, well, those days are done. Before I introduce our first singer, I have one important reminder, and this is it before we move on with the program. I'm sorry if that took too long, but sometimes you get an opportunity and you got to take it. And I hope our young people maybe take that with you in the future. In the Muslim faith, we are taught, and please listen closely because it's really, really relevant when we talk about justice. You are not a true advocate for justice if you publicly support social causes while oppressing your own family or friends in private. Justice begins with those closest to you. Fulfill the right of your Creator. Fulfill the rights of creation. And don't forget the rights of those closest to you. We have a lot to learn from each other in our traditions, I think. With that, I'm going to introduce our first singer. Her name is Kilia Atencio, who is a Mi'kmaq and Kucha woman who resides in Halifax, but her home is Laila First Nation. She's an artist, a spoken word poet, and a social justice activist. So, Kilia, I'm going to introduce you to the stage, please.
First Nation, I just introduced myself in my language. My name is Kilia Atencio. I'm from Laila First Nation, which is a few hours away from here, but I'm currently residing in Juguktuk, Halifax, Nova Scotia. I'm here standing as an Indigenous woman, as a Mi'kmaq person. Colonialism isn't new to us. Genocide is not new to us. We've been fighting the longest war in existence. This here in my hand is a jigamahan. It's a musical instrument of the Mi'kmaq people. It's made of a single piece of ash wood that's pounded on one end to make that. And this is an instrument of resistance. And let me tell you why. When the government made our practices and our traditions illegal, when they made our joy illegal in an attempt to eradicate us, Mi'kmaq people would use this instrument to continue playing their songs and singing their songs. And then when the Indian agents would make their rounds to make sure we weren't doing anything illegal, we would throw this in the fire or in the basket of kindling because it looked just like kindling. It was very inconspicuous and it could blend in and go unnoticed. That is how our stories survived. That is how our songs survived. And that is how our people survived. It's those little acts of resistance in the face of colonialism. And that's why it's important that we continue showing up for each other, like Zaid said. And we will continue showing up for each other and for Indigenous people everywhere. And Palestine will survive because we won't stop showing up. Now I'm going to sing a song that I wrote. I am not a singer, and this is my second time singing it in front of a crowd. But also, like Zaid said, I have no fear when it comes to supporting and standing behind Palestine and the people of Palestine. And I will do so until there is a permanent ceasefire, until the siege is lifted on Gaza, and until Palestine is free. Like I mentioned, I'm coming here from Halifax, and I attend the rallies there every Saturday. There was one today, so I'm happy. Two places at once. My spirit's there, my body's here. But I have a message from the Atlantic Canadian Palestinian Society that they wanted me to share today. So I'm speaking on behalf of them. Dear friends, my name is Rana Zaman, and I'm one of the organizers of the weekly rallies held by Atlantic Canada Palestinian Society. On behalf of the organization and Palestinians facing genocide, we'd like to express our heartfelt gratitude for your support, acknowledgement, and empathy. The Indigenous people here have suffered so much for generations and continue to struggle for truth and reconciliation. Your added voices for the freedom of Palestinians and end to genocide honors and embraces the true meaning of never again. Palestinians and others like myself are strengthened when Indigenous people stand beside us and their voices are added to rallies, and they share their wisdom and knowledge and experiences and speak truth to a government whose own history is steeped in colonialism, ethnic cleansing, and genocide. Canada's people, Indigenous people, are among the first to set an example of courage, strength, and resilience against an occupying, oppressive force, and the Palestinian people are seen today in the same light for their continued struggle, stand, and love for a land unjustly stolen from them. A land taken over by an apartheid state based on a Zionist ideology that will settle for nothing less than the complete dominance and destruction of their territory and their people. And that is all being supported by the Canadian government. The people who are gathered here today are showing their humanity and saying no to everything that has been happening. Apartheid Israel controlled every facet of the Indigenous Palestinian life in Gaza, just as the colonizers of Canada did to the Indigenous people here. Their land stolen, prevented from earning a livelihood, and the ability to prosper and grow. They are being starved, suffering from disease due to lack of clean water, food, shelter, and medicine. This is hauntingly very similar to what took place here in North America. And despite all this, the Indigenous people here have persevered and refused to back down, and so too are the Indigenous Palestinians willing to give up their rights to their unwilling to give up their rights to their unceded, unsurrendered lands. And together, we are stronger, for we are many. Thank you.
I'm now going to introduce our next speaker, who is none other than the Chief of Eel Ground First Nation, Chief George Guinness. I have to tell you, he is the biggest reason that we are here today. And for those of you who may not know why, I just briefly tell you why. What really gave us legitimacy to come together here today was a resolution passed by the Assembly of First Nations in Canada, which is a political body representing about 400 First Nations communities in this country. They passed a truly remarkable resolution in December calling for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution was moved by Chief Willie Littlechild and seconded by none other than Chief George Guinness. But not just that, it's not just a ceasefire resolution. You must know that this is a resolution of remarkable bravery and courage, and the wording is unapologetic and explicit in its solidarity with the Indigenous Palestinian people. Also, one final note, which makes this even more extraordinary. The Assembly of First Nations is the only political organization in this country, from coast to coast, to explicitly express solidarity to Palestinian people and to call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza. It is both outrageous and remarkable at the same time. So for those of you who have been trying to buy your place at the political colonial table, just one last piece of consideration before Chief George steps up, is the fact that the only political organization in this entire country to unapologetically stand by the Palestinian people is the one you likely know very little, if anything, about. And this should be reason for serious contemplation. So I call to the stage Chief George Guinness.
Not a politician either, by the way. I'm a leader. Clarify that right at the outset. I want to welcome you all to our community, to Natoaganeg, our home for thousands of years. This is a remarkable opportunity to gather for peace for all of our children. It's an honor, because lives have been taken from our ancestors in pursuit of our lands, in pursuit of our resources. And every opportunity that our people get, we have to remind the political and federal governments that we're dealing with that we've only been able to vote in our own country since 1960. That's not that long ago. We've only been able to hire legal counsel since the 1960s. We were effectively given no rights whatsoever. You needed permits to leave the reserve for any reason. You had to give up your Indianness in order to join the military or to become a professional. So this is not ancient history. But it is an honor to host you here today, and we stand in solidarity for all disputed and displaced Indigenous peoples of many lands across the globe. We have, through our national body, demanded a permanent ceasefire and stop killing of the innocents that are just seeking to survive in their homeland. We put out a call to action to respect life. Our 7 sacred teachings speak to what is necessary: love, respect, truth, courage, honesty, humility, and wisdom. It's, you have to ask what has humanity come to when children are expendable. And it is heartbreaking. When I think about my family, when I think about my children, my grandchildren, for them to be in that situation and potentially lose their very spirit, their very lives for standing up what they believe in is horrible. It was a great privilege to be asked to second the AFN resolution that was unanimously supported by all the chiefs in attendance. To listen to Dr. Littlechild speak on the motion, this is a gentleman that was part of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. He understands to the very core of his being what our people have endured across this country. And for him to speak on behalf of Chief Nepanak, who had made the motion, he's an amazing, absolutely amazing person. And I also thank Suzanne Pappas, who just so happens to be my niece, for reaching out to me and asking if I would second this, and I did without hesitation. I have to share that we're also jubilant, and we're not jubilant very often, but we are today because of a Supreme Court of Canada decision just yesterday that had denied the province of Quebec's appeal of the new Federal Indigenous Child Welfare Act. So as of yesterday, this Indigenous law takes precedence. Self-government in child and family by our nations for our children is the law of the land. I have to acknowledge the work that Dr. Cindy Blackstock has done for many years. She is a remarkable, remarkable woman. And it's her work on behalf of our children, at the Human Rights Tribunal, has really set the foundation for what is happening now. Shout out to Naomi Metallic as well, who was from Listabush, who has worked with us on a number of initiatives, including income assistance reform. I mean, that's one way government controls us, is poverty, is lack of opportunity, lack of investment. We remember here today our day school and our residential school children. In my community, in all communities throughout the Atlantic, missing murdered Indigenous women, LGBTQ plus 2 today, we stand up and we're not silent anymore. I'll close by acknowledging all those for being with us here today. This is brave. This is brave to come out and do this publicly and support this because, there's still government. There are still, people that will work to break our spirit. And, we have each other, and that is a step in the right direction. I thank Dr. Zaid, I thank Anne-Marie, Terry Ann, all our members who have worked in a very short period of time to make this happen today. Planning assistance. I'd ask you to keep Stephanie Club and Natoaganeg in your prayers. went home to meet the Creator today. Every child matters. Every child matters. I love you. Thank you.
I'm going to introduce Maxine Guinness next. So, I've got to be honest, I don't think I've spoken to Maxine in about 4 or 5 years, truthfully. But when I was preparing for this event, for some reason, I don't have no idea why, for some reason, Maxine came to mind. So I sent her a message. I said, this is the event. Are you willing to share a few words? And seemingly without hesitation, she said, sure. And like they say, you trust the science. Maxine is an Eel Ground community member and a social worker. So I'd like to call Maxine to the stage to share a few words.
There's way more people here than I noticed in my seats. That is so beautiful, so amazing. Welcome everyone to our beautiful territory. It is such a beautiful day out today. The weather is just so perfect. I brought my buddy. His name is Gina, and he is the spirit bearer, Gina, from spirit bearer from Jordan's Principle. And what his job is to make sure that all First Nations children, all children, are receiving the services that they require. And they're advocating for everything that our children need and ensuring that we don't have to say sorry twice. And like Chief G said, the amazing work of Cindy Blackstock and the advocating that she has done for First Nations children and all children around the world. Children are our medicine. They are so sacred. They are our future. They need to be protected at all costs. And our communities and our people know what it feels like to have our children attacked and taken away from us in such a horrendous way. So when all of this stuff was starting to happen and these videos were coming up on my social media feed, it just hurt my heart. It's almost like ancestral blood memory. You feel it. You feel the pain that they're going through and the pain that our relatives have gone through. And it's a lot. It's a lot on our systems and our mental health. So I just wanted to take this time to do a little check-in and a reminder of how powerful our intentions are and how powerful our prayers are. And that when we are met with those feelings of overwhelm or fear or anything, that we can meet them and spread that love and spread that good energy. And when you're at home tonight with your family and you're drinking your water and you're in the safety of your home and you're enjoying that connection, think about those families that don't have that right now. Think about those families that are living in fear and heartache and all of those feelings that we know all too well. Throw that energy at them. And I'm going to put Gina down. I want us to do a little exercise right now. I just want everyone to take their hands and rub them back and forth. Close your eyes. Take a big, deep belly breath. And just acknowledge where you're at today. You're both welcome and you're so safe, and we're all so happy that you can be here today. Keep rubbing those hands together. Now I want you to pull them apart. I want you to feel that heat. That heat, that is our spirit. That is our intention. That is good medicine. I want you to take it and throw it up into the air. Give it out to everyone who needs it. Give some to yourself. Give some to your family members. And just keep taking care of your spirit so you can continue on this path in a good way and advocate for change. And for all of those kids who are out there and our babies and your babies, we love you. I'm so
Maxine. You know, I think Chief George is, I forgot to just reiterate that point. It is very brave. This is a very brave event. It is very brave for the people who did show up. And I think Chief George is very brave for you
extremely brave. I was actually blown away when I read the wording, and to see that it was your name just down the road, seconding it. I was very proud, honored. I'm not sure why, because I'm not from here, but I was proud and honored, and I think that bravery has inspired a lot of us. So thanks for doing that. And without it, it's a very small chance we would have the opportunity to come here today. We're approaching the end of the indoor ceremony. Just so everyone knows, we're going to finish up. I'm going to recite a few names of children who have died here and in Gaza with context, followed by a grieving song, a couple last words, and we're going to make our way outside to hear that beautiful honor song and raise the Palestinian flag. For me, this is going to be the hardest part about today. I'm going to try to get through it, because I feel like I have a responsibility to understand the scope and context of the pain we're talking about. Like, not just as a father, but certainly as a father of 4 young kids. It's going to be a bit tricky. Just writing it down, you know, I had to stop a few times, gather myself, because it's difficult. But I'm going to share that difficulty with you, so that we can all take it and maybe do something with it. I don't know what, but I know there's some seeds and something will grow out of it. But I have no doubt. So I'm going to name the names of 10 Indigenous children who have died in this country, both in residential school and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. And for each name that I state, you can multiply that name by 2,000. The majority, 99% of the deaths of these children, no one was held to account for, unresolved. And I'm doing that for the people who may not know. When we talk about the scope of the pain and suffering, let's make it real for people who didn't know what happened here. And on the other hand, I'm going to name the names of 14 children from Gaza who have been killed in the last 4 months. And for each name I recite, you can multiply that number by 1,000. I don't know if I'll get through it, and if I don't, I'll stop. And I'm going to hand it over to our singers to sing the Mother's Grieving Song, a strong women's song for grieving mothers, rather. But I'm going to try, so that we can all understand together what this really means in real terms, right? So, children killed in Canada. And remember, each of these 10 names you can multiply by 2,000. I'll state the age of the child if it was known. I'll state the name of the child if it was known. In many cases, they were not known because records were deliberately destroyed by police and government officials. So we will never know the real numbers, just like we will never know the real numbers of those killed in Gaza, still buried under the rubble, unaccounted for. But we're going to try. All right. Amanda Simpson, age 4, 1999. Mary Guinness, Shubenacadie, 1943. Baby girl, unnamed. Age 9 months, 2015, Manitoba. Colin Bernard, age unknown, Shubenacadie. Heaven Travers, age 2, 2005, Manitoba. Ella Cooper, age and date unknown, Shubenacadie. I'm going to get through it because we have to, so we understand a little something when we hear you, right? Savannah Hall, age 3, 2001, British Columbia. Albert Pictou, age unknown, Shubenacadie. Patricia Carpenter, age 14, Ontario, 1992. This is not ancient history, like Chief George said. Maurice Young, age unknown, Shubenagi. Those are 10 names. Multiply each by 2,000. This is pain. This is sorrow. All right, October 2023. We're now in February. Murdered by Israel occupation forces in Gaza with the full complicity and support of the Canadian government. Ali al-Suri, 2 months old, Gaza. Daniel Mansour, 1 year old, Gaza. Fatima Asfour, 2 years old, Gaza. Malik al-Zanadi, 3 years old, Gaza. Lena Kader, 4 years old, Gaza. Elias Daher, 5 years old, Gaza. Maryam al-Masri, 6 years old, Gaza. Kareem Hamid, 7 years old, Gaza. Sarah Abu Hatab, 8 years old, Gaza. Mohammad Karika, 9 years old, Gaza. Zainab Aslam, 10 years old, Gaza. Omar Shaban, 11 years old, Gaza. Lana Dawood, 12 years old, Gaza. Zachariah Al-Astal, Gaza. It was hard to get to those 14 names. Multiply each of those names by 1,000 in 4 months. Where we count our murdered children in multiples of thousands, and we're expected to simply go on, I think you can call that pain. And I have to say, as a father of a 5-year-old girl, I would like to share something that's been on my mind. A 6-year-old girl named Hind, who 12 days ago called the Red Cross in Gaza, and one of the most harrowing phone calls you could ever hear. The Israeli tank had just killed everyone in the vehicle with her. The Red Cross Society in Gaza recorded the phone call with her saying she's cold, it's getting dark, she's afraid of the dark, there are guns around her, and the responder on the phone tells her, "We're coming, Habibi, we're coming, my love." They sent 2 paramedics to find her. For 12 days, the whereabouts of those paramedics have been unknown, as was the fate of Hind, 6 years old, the age of my daughter. Until this morning, they found the ambulance with the charred remains of Hind and the 2 paramedics sent out to retrieve her body. And this is full complicity of the Canadian government, our politicians who are silent. This, my friends, is called pain. And with that sorrow that I have, and you can only imagine the immense sorrow in Gaza right now, I'm going to ask the drummers to perform a song, rightly so, for grieving mothers.
acknowledge Zaid because this isn't his first rodeo, it's his second rodeo. So earlier in the year, Zaid approached me to participate, and I was so honored and so blessed to meet, first of all, such a wonderful friend and an ally to our people. And he came to us on a day of our great loss. He came to us and he spent the day with us and he spoke with us. And he was there the day after Miss Shirley passed away. And Miss Shirley was a residential school survivor. And so we had a nice talking circle, and we cried and we hurt. And Zaid was there with us and helped carry that pain with us. Zaid came to the sacred fire not to do anything but learn and to share his prayers. And he brought his family, and he expressed his willingness to learn from us and learn with us. And since then, I've just had the honor of being able to call this man friend. So the slogan for this movement. But first, I said, I'm sorry about your people. I assumed that Zaid was Palestinian, right? I assumed that he carried all this love in his heart for his own people, right? And he said, no, I'm not from there. And I had to take a step back because I was really touched by that, that he carries so much love in his heart for people who aren't his own. And it just shows that we can all be that together, right? We believe in a circle, and all of our people belong in this circle, all of us together. So Zaid, the slogan for this movement and for this beautiful movement is from the river to the sea, right? And so this eagle feather was found on the banks of Natoaganeg by our river, and our river has always brought us healing and strength. When we put our feet in that water, when we take food from that water, it's always sustained us. Water is so important, and right now, they don't have clean water in Gaza. They don't have anything in Gaza that is good. They're being deprived their food, their medicine, even the basic human necessities, So we take this eagle feather as a representative of the Gipu, the eagle, right? And that's our medicine. So I want to present this eagle feather to Zaid Kaji for all that he's done for people all over the world and for the people that he's shown love to. And we love you, Zaid.
I didn't put that in the agenda, but he's not an undercover agent for me. Wow, that's I feel really nice to hear that. I feel terrible that it's in these circumstances, but thank you for your words. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. That's beautiful. Yes. There's no hierarchy here. Somebody raised their hand and would like to share a few words. Is Dr. Adabali, who is a doctor at the local hospital. So he's gonna.
Not much, just one thing I'd like to share with you. It's a verse from the Quran, the Holy Book. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-A'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-Rajim. I'm going to recite it in Arabic. I'm going to do the translation. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan ar-Rajim. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس إنا خلقناكم من ذكر وأنثى وجعلناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا إن أكرمكم عند الله أتقاكم إن الله عليم خبير. So the translation of this verse: O humanity, indeed we created you from a male and a female, and made you into peoples and tribes, so that you may get to know one another. Surely the most noble of you in the sight of Allah, sight of God, is the most righteous among you. Allah is truly all-knowing, all-aware. Sadaqallahu al-Alim. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Very important. Very important words. Yeah. very important what was shared because it's that concept of who's in control. Don't get intimidated by the guns and the machines and the technology. It's the reminder in all the holy books and traditions, and particularly the Quran. And it's I think it's really nice that we could recall that. There's a power greater than all of us, and it's a power greater than all of their bombs and their guns. So. And we'll take that with us. We're just about at the end. I'm going to wrap up with a few words. I would like to present each of our speakers with a gift, and then we're all going to step outside for what we really, really came here for, which is to raise the Palestinian flag in front of an institution of Indigenous rejuvenation, a school. This is an act of utmost resistance given the scope of destruction of schools and education facilities in Gaza and here, but particularly in Gaza lately, that we could do this in front of a school in Eel Ground. So in a minute, we'll grab our things, we'll go outside, and my favorite song is the Mi'kmaq Honor Song, which will be sung as we raise the flag. And perhaps then you feel free to grab some food, some coffee, a bite, before we all go our own ways. But before you all go your own way, please, please do not forget the children and the people of Gaza. Do not forget the indigenous people of Palestine. This should not be a once-off. This should be the beginning of something. And similarly, please do not forget the wonderful people of Eel Ground who have hosted us and made this possible. And we thank them, all of them, for allowing us to gather in such a beautiful way. I'm not sure this would have been possible anywhere else. So, as we move forward, I have no doubt the next generation, the kids with us, will lead us out of the depths of this sorrow. And let's make our way outside for a truly remarkable moment. And remember, this is the first community in this entire country to do what we're about to do. So